All right, welcome. Today we're going to get into a little bit about why you should consider commercial real estate. So, first, let's talk through, why did you get into real estate investing to begin with? Maybe not all, but I assume most of the audience watching has done at least a little bit of real estate investing on their own before finding commercial real estate. Whether you're a W 2 investor who's bought a couple buy and hold investments, but a lot of the folks that I talk to in this business are fix and flippers or wholesalers or have otherwise been heavy transactional on the residential side of the business, and they're looking for a change and they're looking for something different. And my advice to you when thinking about getting into commercial real estate is, take a pause and take a step back for a minute and just ask yourself, why did you get into real estate to begin with in the first place? And really think through your answers to that question and make sure that you understand your why. Because there's a lot of really good reasons to get into real estate. And I bet you had some really good ones back when you got in. For me, I felt like it was that dream of passive income. That was, a big reason for me. At the time, I was working in the hospital, but that was my original reason. I bought a couple residential houses. It wasn't going fast enough for me. And I realized, with a couple houses, that passive income dream's not quite as easy as they sell it in the real estate space. But when I really reflect, I was looking for reliable cash flow and making money in a different way than how I was in my active W-2 at the time. And so go back, think about your specific goals. Did you get into it for the passive income? Are you looking for reliable cash flow every month that comes in no matter what you do and how hard you work that month? Or are you a build a bigger business kind of person who's trying to get serious cash in the form of active income? That's totally okay too. But think through what your goal was. You may have had some of the more, a lot of times we'll call them vanity metrics in this world, where maybe you were focused on a door count. I want to get 50 doors, 100 doors, 1,000 doors, a certain number of buildings, maybe a certain revenue count every month. But for me, what's important, and over time, I've kind of figured out how much active income I want to make every month, from the efforts that I put into in my different real estate businesses. And then I figured out a reliable cash flow amount of money every month that I want to make that's based on my investments. So my long-term holds, whether that was formerly residential or now commercial. So think through those numbers, figure out kind of what you're looking for and what you were back then, and kind of reconcile those things and put that into what's going to make sense for you in commercial real estate. So let's talk about why you should be doing commercial real estate. To be super simple about it, it's honestly just about bigger deals. Bigger deals are better. Like, I don't know how to say that, nicer or more scientific or more professional. It's just the reality that doing bigger deals with bigger numbers, it's both easier and harder. And what do I mean by that? Well, when I was doing aggressive wholesale and fix and flip and trying to make, a pretty high revenue and a pretty high net profit off of that a year, it took 50, 60 plus transactions, to really get into serious money. And when you're doing that many transactions, it comes with a ton of headache. I had a big marketing budget, a big team, that many transactions you're going to get. Each transaction has at least one headache, if not more, to deal with. Now you're talking about minimum 60 headaches a year, and it's very transactional. It was rare that we worked with a seller twice. We spent all those marketing dollars, and typically they only had one house to sell us. Not always, but usually. In the commercial space, to make that same amount of money, one commercial deal, depends on the deal, of course, can make the equivalent of 20 wholesale or fix and flips, 30, 40, 60. It's insane how much it can do. And if that's your only thing you have to focus on, can literally do one deal a year, maybe a couple deals a year. How many deals could you do if the only thing you had to focus on was taking down a couple commercial real estate deals a year? So that's one option. But I think, for a lot of folks, don't quit your main thing, whatever's working, whatever's making you money, especially at first, start that. Whether that's your W-2 job or your fix and flip business, your wholesale business, if it's making you money, keep doing it. But just go pick off one commercial deal a year and you're going to fundamentally change your life. And don't get me wrong, there's headaches in commercial deals. Absolutely. We're dealing with a couple right now on the deals we have that we're trying to get across the board. But, each deal, whether it's a small $5,000 residential deal or a big monster multi-million commercial deal, they're all going to have some kind of headaches, and it's not really more headaches with bigger deals. So that's the awesome part. So then it's just the number of headaches. So if you do 60, times one headache in each deal, that's 60 headaches. If you do 4 commercial deals, which is a lot, which is going to make you serious cash, maybe that's 4 headaches, 8 headaches. I don't know exactly, but it's definitely less than 60. I promise you that. So let's talk about net worth. I hope, and you probably know what net worth is. But a super simple way to think about it, total value of everything you own minus what you owe. And so typical journey for most people in America is they get out of college, they've got student loan debt, their net worth is negative, potentially by a lot, depending on what you do. I went to master's, went to grad school, got my master's. Mine was pretty deeply negative when I first got out of school. I didn't know real estate at the time. We lived within our means and chipped at it, got it better and better until it was a little bit positive. And then the way the classic W-2 investor goes is over time, it does slowly kind of hockey stick up. What's really, really cool about commercial real estate is one deal can majorly change your net worth. And just a super short, I'll get into a lot more detail on this particular deal in a later episode. But our very first office deal, it's 2 40,000 square foot buildings, bought them for $825,000 total. One was a shell, one needed cosmetic work. We put cosmetic work into one. We considered the shell a free building, essentially, based on the price. We sold that free building for $1.75 million a couple years later. 1031 exchanged that into an industrial warehouse, paid no taxes, and now that building, legally, by the way, and that building is now making cash flow for us every single month, and we'll do that for the rest of our lives. And while we're paying down the mortgage at the end of it, we're also under contract to sell the second building. Those 2 buildings together, when sold, will make the LLC, the partnership that owns that, $3.75 million. So that one deal absolutely functionally changed my life and my family's life forever. And that's just one deal. We didn't stop there. And was it a home run? Absolutely. Is every single deal going to be exactly like that? Absolutely not. But I've had other deals close, and I'll have some again in the future. So it can definitely be done. One deal can change your life. It's super cliche, but inside of commercial real estate, it is absolutely true. So I think one of the knowing net worth's really cool, but I also love the phrase, you can't eat net worth, because you can't. There was definitely periods of time where even though we had all these awesome commercial properties, that we were struggling on a month-to-month basis. And that's because cash flow is super important. You've heard a lot of phrases about that. Cash flow is king. Cash flow is how you stay in the game is a great phrase. And so I think balancing those two, you do want to grow your net worth over time. That's going to massively change your life and build generational wealth for you and your family. But along the pathway there, you got to have cash flow coming in. If you don't have cash flow, you can absolutely lose your buildings, lose your projects. And really, when you're in that phase of building net worth and you're waiting for those buildings to mature, the goal is just not to lose in that time frame. And the way that you do that is cash flow. So net worth is this thing. It's really cool. But if you're busy fix and flipper, busy wholesaler, busy W-2 employee, it can kind of get put by the wayside a little bit when you're thinking through all the fires you have to deal with every week. And most people get stuck in this next client, next deal. I've got to fire somebody. I've got to hire somebody. And if you get stuck kind of running from problem to problem, fire to fire, it can be easy to ignore something like, let me go spend the time and energy to learn how to do commercial real estate to change my net worth and build generational wealth. It's extremely important. It's awesome. It's the best part about commercial real estate. But if you look at that versus, I'm a wholesaler and my sales guy is not doing what he's supposed to do, I got to go fire him and hire another one, that's more urgent. It can absolutely feel more urgent, and you can spend your time on that. And you can look up, and months have gone by, years have gone by, and you haven't changed your life through something like picking up a commercial property. So it's absolutely an opportunity cost. And to put some urgency on it, which you absolutely have to do, I think about it. Every month that you wait is a month that you've lost forever on that deal. And remember, it can take upwards of 6 to 12 months to get your first commercial deal. I know people that have been trying to get commercial deals for years. Now, they're doing that a lot of times without assistance. Typically, my students can get it done in less than 6 months, or at least go under contract in less than 6 months and purchase their first building in around 6 months. But think about it like planting a tree or compound interest. The best time to start was years ago. The second best time to start is today. But if you wait till this fire is put out and you're safe from fires, that's never going to happen, especially in businesses that are super transactional like fix and flip and wholesale. There's never not going to be a fire inside of your business that you got to fix, which to me means it's even more important to do commercial. Get your first commercial building, break that cycle. Another massive, massive reason you should be considering commercial real estate, especially if you have a lot of active income from fix and flips or wholesale or whatever else inside of real estate, especially if you're already considered a real estate professional from a tax standpoint, is absolutely the tax benefits. So we know the tax benefits in general of real estate, and buying and holding real estate in particular. There's very little tax benefits in the highly transactional, quick real estate side of things. But what I love about commercial, and this exists for residential too, but buying a $250,000 house doesn't do it in the same way that buying a couple $1 million commercial real estate building does. And if you think about it, if I went out and bought a $2 million commercial real estate building today, I can potentially offset all of my active income taxes for the year from that one building, that one transaction. And the way to do that is cost segregation with accelerated depreciation on top. I'm recording this in June of 2025. Currently this year, or 2024 was at 60% bonus depreciation. 25 is going to 40%. 26 is going to 20%. So this is getting phased out, although there's currently a bill in Congress to get it back to 100%. So we'll see what happens with that, but absolutely take advantage of this. It is completely game-changing to wipe out hundreds of thousands of dollars of taxes that you would owe from your active income with one building. Like, that is insane value. Even if commercial provided you no other value than that, it would change your life. So given all these benefits, why are people afraid of commercial? In my mind, it's absolutely just the human nature of the fear of the unknown. Think about it. Like, why are people so attracted to real estate to begin with? It's because it's familiar. Everybody has lived in a house. Yes, not everybody's owned a house, but everybody is somewhat familiar with a house and the process of real estate. What do I mean by that? If you haven't owned a house, you've been a tenant, you've had a landlord, you've looked at a lease, you've signed a lease, or maybe you've owned your own primary residence. If you've done that, you've done an inspection, you've dealt with agents, you've dealt with closing attorneys and title companies and escrow, you've put down earnest money, you've gotten appraisals, and maybe only once or twice in your life, but you know what that process looks like. You've gotten contractor bids to do work on your houses, and that's even before you've ever sniffed being a real estate investor. And so it is familiar. But you can go look in and walk a commercial building, especially something a little bit foreign to a lot of people like an industrial warehouse, and it can look completely different and completely unknown and unfamiliar. I remember the first time I walked in an industrial warehouse, I didn't own any commercial at the time, and the seller's showing off the 3-phase electric system and the lift and pulley systems, and I had no clue what any of that was. And it was super intimidating. Zoning, rehab cost changes, the loan types are all a little bit different. That's all potentially scary. But that's super overcomable, especially in today's modern day when education exists for absolutely everything. You can overcome that fear of the unknown. And what I love about it is there's less people doing it because of that fear of the unknown. So the competition is less. I think perhaps the biggest one is when you look at a $2 million commercial deal, you think you need some big money to go take that deal down. And yeah, if you're going to do it yourself, you absolutely do. A $2 million building, for example, let's say you're going to go get a loan at 75%. That means you can get a commercial loan for $1.5 million, but $500,000 down payment plus closing costs and anything else that needs to be fixed on the building, somebody's going to have to bring that to the table. If you're buying the building by yourself, that's got to be you. But what I love about commercial is these deals are big enough that they allow all kinds of partnership structures. And so I want it to be very clear that you do not need to bring that money to the table as a commercial investor. On almost all of our deals, we use OPM, other people's money. These are typically private capital partners who have worked with us on previous deals, and they get typically, if we're doing equity, they get a percent ownership in the LLC that's going to buy the building. If we're doing debt, they get a fixed interest rate for providing that capital. And they would love to find you, and they would love to invest in your deals. They want to make a better return than they can get in other places. They want to make a safer return than they can get in the stock market or crypto or these different other places. So they need you. They want you. They don't have the time to go out and do what you're going to do to find these buildings. So it's absolutely a win-win for everybody. And I want to dispel that myth today. You do not need big money to do commercial real estate. If you want to reach out, you want to get started faster, we've got all kinds of programs and products out there for you. Go check out CRE-Playbook.com for more information and follow us on social media. And until next time, keep underwriting.